gave a brief presentation on our rural planning organization. But Tom asked me to come back. I know there's a lot of new faces, and I apologize if you've heard this before, but hopefully I'll be able to educate you a little bit on rural transportation planning in the 1st Tennessee Development District, and I'll let Tom grab those slides as he goes by. Although our name doesn't indicate it, this is a program operated out of the 1st Tennessee Development District, and we operate in 8 counties and 20 municipalities in northeast Tennessee. This particular program is funded through the Tennessee Department of Transportation, and we are, even though the name does not indicate it, we are responsible for rural transportation planning. And it's all modes of transportation, bike, walking trails, waterways, railroads, airports, and last but not least is roadways. See if I can work this. One of the reasons why we do this, and why the state has felt it important to plan transportation needs, is this example. This is West Elk Avenue at 4:30 on Friday afternoon. Close. Actually, that's Southern California, believe it or not. Hopefully most of those cars have Borland mufflers on them, but that is a real-life picture of transportation congestion, poor planning. Not sure what other answers there are to that type of mess, but that's something that, you know, obviously that's a gross example of what can go wrong, but one of the things that we're focused on is planning for future needs in cooperation with the Department of Transportation and local governments. A little bit of background on the RPO. In Tennessee, we were formed in 2005. And this was as a result of the National Highway Transportation Bill, which is commonly referred to as Safety Lou, which has been reauthorized and continuing resolution about 4 to 5 times. You might read in the paper that Congress and the Senate are in the process of trying to get a new highway bill introduced in the coming months. But the Safety Lou legislation basically directed states to consult with rural local governments. Prior to this time, rural communities didn't have what I would call a voice when it came to transportation needs in their states. Now Tennessee took it a step farther than some states when they developed the RPO program. It's a formal consultation process, and I'll get into the details a little bit later, but it's a formal consultation process with our local governments, both counties and cities. The purpose of our program is to provide rural communities for an opportunity for input on projects and funding and directing funding for projects in our area. We are similar to the MPO model, which is the Metropolitan Planning Organization. And those are your large cities: Johnson City, Kingsport, Bristol, and Elizabethton is in the Johnson City MPO. So we are any area outside of those communities is what's considered the RPO boundaries. There are 12 of us across the state, and we represent every county and rural community in Tennessee. We are governed by a technical committee and an executive board. Basically, our technical committee is just that. It's comprised of people throughout our district with knowledge of the rural transportation system and or are principal users of that system. The HRA, the Human Resources Agency, is represented on our technical committee. We have folks that represent aviation, folks that represent the rail lines, folks that represent biking and pedestrian interests. Specifically, Carter County is represented on there by, of course, our highway superintendent, Mr. Perkins. Hattie Skeens represents Watauga, and then Chris Schutler represents Carter County, and Brad Moffitt actually is a representative of this board and was appointed as a non-voting member a couple of years ago. Our executive board is comprised of elected officials, both city and county, or their designees. And that's all of the municipalities and counties in the 1st Tennessee Development District. Of course, in Carter County, we're represented by Mayor Humphrey and Mayor LaFleur. And again, the Mayor of Elizabethton is represented on the MPO board, which is not us. What do? We basically have two primary responsibilities. And at any point in this process, if you have a question, please feel free to stop me because I may run through this kind of quick and skip over some of the details. But we basically do two things. We identify transportation needs to study. And those can be anything across our district.